Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure to be a part of this meeting this morning. And I also want to add my voice on welcoming you to Kampala on a virtual platform. KCCA joined WeGO in 2017 with the objective of ensuring that it can learn and benchmark from other global practices in terms of implementing the smart city. And I'm glad that to this end, the executive director has been championing the smart city initiative and breaking it down for every other citizen in Kampala to be a part of it. Now, in other areas, we do provide incentives for people to adopt the technology. For instance, one of the applications called Weyonje, which supports waste collection, especially for pit latrine and septic, and fecal sludge services. There are citizens that can't afford these kind of services. What the design of the software is done in such a way that we negotiate with service providers to have low-cost pricing for these kind of people and make sure that we have geolocation services. People call for a service provider that is nearest to save on transport. So that is also to have inclusion of the people that may not be able to afford. In terms of health services, that app is open for all health services, including during COVID, would have COVID patients, would have services for the maternity, people that would not access, medical facilities in terms of maternal and other low-end kind of illnesses. So, and we had to bring the government and private sector ambulances to support and link them to the 72 facilities using the app. So all this is geared and driven by including people that would hardly access services at the normal price. Yes, another slide, please. Okay, so basically we've been taking you through what we've been doing that that is driven by inclusion of everyone. But going forward, this is a strategic focus. And the strategic focus is based on those pillars in terms of the IT digital transformation smart city initiative. So we have the smart people connecting, smart mobility, smart governance. Yes, sorry. We have the smart environment and smart living. Each of those components is explained in the slide. The smart people is to empower people to be more innovative. Mobility, ensure that we enhance services for movement of people and goods. Governance, have solutions that can enhance transparency and accountability. Smart economy, facilitating existing businesses to do trade using technology. Perhaps have a market, an online market that promotes their services. Smart environment, we already talked about the air pollution monitors. So we want to use technology to apply to help drive a climate change agenda, and also smart living, applying systems that improve quality of life.
What the World Bank is trying to do in order to address socio-economic inequalities through the use of technology. I'm Paul Martin Onyachola, Senior Urban Specialist with the World Bank in the Urban Resilience and Land Global Practice. Now, this is the street naming and addressing. We have worked with KCCA. All the streets within the city now has a name. All the properties do have numbers. We have also incorporated tourist signage so that a visitor who comes to Kampala City and he wants to go to a particular place, the signage can guide him or her. Next slide, please. On property numbering, all the properties you are seeing on the map there, they now do have GIS references. They are in Google, so when you are driving or you are walking, the system will be able to plot for you and indicate to you the alternative routes and the minutes it will take you. So it has made navigation within the city much easier. And this one, you can use a smartphone. You don't need a very sophisticated device to be able to navigate through the city. Next slide, please. Now, for the integrated revenue administration system, this is a lighter version. And we, again, like the case of KCCA, we found that there were a lot of leakages in revenue collection in secondary cities. The secondary cities were also collecting revenue by accident. They did not know who their taxpayers were. The database was very unreliable. There was weak compliance. So we decided to develop a very simple IT-based solution that mirrors the generic local revenue administration processes, and we interface it with the smartphone. And the result has been full automation of 3 key local revenue sources, which we had piloted, because first of all, we started with the proof of concept, developing the IT solution, and then piloting it. And we did take 3 revenue sources, top 3 revenue sources. That is property rates, local hotel tax, and business licenses. We piloted it in 3 municipalities. And in those pilots, we were able to triple revenue within 1 financial year. Now this solution has been handed over to the Local Government Finance Commission, and they have rolled it now to 22 secondary cities within the country, with the idea that they will scale it up and cover all urban centers.
And also greetings, of course, to all the excellencies and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Angelina, and I represent Korean company Post. It is a pleasure to be in your company today, and I would like to thank WeGO for inviting us for this session. My sincere congratulations also go to Kampala, wonderful host of today's event. And I'm glad to see KCCA colleagues after a long time. Today, as briefly as I can, also due to the time limit, I will introduce our projects, our company, something that we also carried out together with KCCA, and introduce funding programs for international projects from the viewpoint of the Korean enterprise. And another one, please. Thank you. As you can see in the overview, we performed this with a feasibility study program controlled and funded by WeGO. Post won a tender for this project and first delivered analytical work, including the model that would fit Kampala requirements. The second outcome was the pilot study that we performed on the territory of KCCA headquarters as a proof of concept. Next slide, please. For the analytical part, SRPost provided scalable models for both on-street and off-street parking. For the pilot, though, we focused mainly on the small-scale off-street parking project on the territory of KCCA, as it was considered as a more sustainable choice, so which may be gradually scaled up later. We targeted easy to deploy, cost-efficient and flexible system that is not that much reliant on a huge amount of hardware. The system used live CCTV video streams as the basis for the computer vision that allow such operations as monitoring parking lots occupancy, calculation of the total time of parking, parking fees, and so on. Since the system is connected to the CCTV that was installed for the project, we also suggested its use for the better safety and control over the parking space in general. Next slide, please. For the parking model, we proposed this series of events that you may see on the screen, from the vehicle recognition achieved through license plate recognition, or LPR, to fee payment calculation and parking end. I may explain a little bit more after my presentation if you will have questions. While we successfully finished the pilot project, after the project and the system was challenged a bit by the local environment, including heavy rain season. However, as also Mr. Martin mentioned before, I hope that this project, while providing essential knowledge, also acted as a method of a trial and error for the smart parking implementation in Kampala, and showed what can be implemented and what can be improved. Next slide, please. Now moving to our project with KCCA, which was the provision of the e-government system for the city and integration in the current environment. As you may see also, this funding we performed within the program of the Korean Ministry of SMEs and Startups. The funding provides the Korean side with necessary resources for 2 years to develop a software product for the customer. Upon KCCA's interest in our citizen participation system, we tried to provide an innovative platform that would contribute to Kampala's communication with citizens, and also since the development was falling into the period of COVID, so we felt that it's especially important to provide this e-government platform for the comfort of citizens and KCCA employees. After development, we provided the exploitation guide and documentation, allowed integration with the existing services, and shared the program source code. By doing this, we tried to make sure that the KCCA would not be dependent on us much. Performing the project amid COVID, as you can imagine, was a little bit tricky because our team was not able to travel to Kampala and to perform different works in person. However, we could achieve success thanks to the efforts of our team and to the continuous support of KCCA.
I want to just add to that, just very briefly, talking about the UN Habitat's approach to smart cities and why we promote people-centered. And also I would like to share some of the findings of a recent survey we've done in relation to smart cities and African cities. So in the next few slides, I just wanted to talk about, Africa and digitalization, and wanted to share some stats on where we stand. Of course, we hear about, Africa is ready for digitalization. There's an uptick of ICT use. Of course, that's true to some extent, where there's, Africa's ICT uptick is quite high, and there's, for example, mobile cellular coverage is nearing 90%. But we also have to note much of this is at the 3G network, and broadband access is still limited, and only the coverage is not even 50%. Having said that, the internet access and use is also, excuse me, quite low, in that only 28.6% of the population are actually accessing and using the internet, which really shows quite a number of digital divide among different groups, between men and women, between rural and urban areas, and so forth. And the digital divide which Africa is seeing, of course, is not just about the access, where someone has access or doesn't have access, but it's also about knowing how to use this, how to use the internet, how to get value from the internet. And also, of course, there's quite a number of gaps in terms of access to digital devices. Do you have a computer? Do you have the necessary infrastructure to run a business, and so on? So these different levels of the digital divide is something that we are seeing in Africa. And this is from the ITU, which shows a much more detailed snapshot of the status of Africa's digitalization. And then in the next slide, I wanted to bring in, this is being more global level, something more focused on the topic of smart city. And recently, UN Habitat has done a study of how cities globally are governing smart city initiatives. So to sort of understand what the global smart city governance practices are. And we have asked a few questions to the people that responded to the survey. And why are we after smart city governance? Because, you know, we're seeing smart city projects failing at the country level or the city level, you know, just like any other software project. I think that's very common. There are also issues of exclusion in that, you know, as a smart city project is implemented, a new digital solution is introduced, but it doesn't include a certain group in our community. For example, the elderly, you know, if you move, you know, your tax, you know, collection online, the elderly who doesn't have access to computers, who don't know how to use, how are they included? Some of them have those exclusionary measures. There's also the unintended consequences in terms of data breaches, private leaks. So we commissioned this study to understand what practices are put in place, such as, does the city have a definition for a smart city? Is there a vision to guide the adoption of smart city projects? Is there a national policy really putting in place by the government to really move forward smart city initiatives? Is there a systematic collection and use of data? Is there an open data platform to share data with the public, but also even internally within the government to really make sense of what's happening?